This will age really terribly if we end up quitting for whatever reason.
Okay, you know what?
Or if this comes out before 30.
We'll just make the we'll just make the excuse that we're just on a break between seasons, you know?
Yes,
And then
a
the second
season break.
season never returns.
Who would ever do that? Say, we'll make a second season and then just not make it.
Do it? Yeah, that's so stupid.
Certainly not us.
Oh my gosh.
Every time we say we're going to make one, we do it. Thanks for tuning in to 101.3 BKMG The Farce. Coming to you live from separate places, pre-recorded. Now presenting The Bane and Mickey Show. Record the show!
You've been practicing for your professional clapping career?
Yes, you know me. They're going to hire me an audience, and I'll be the one guy they have the camera on doing the brava.
Oh my gosh.
Or bravo. Or bravado.
Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody.
You're still listening after over 30 episodes?
Whoa.
We appreciate that.
We do appreciate it. I'm more surprised that we've managed to keep up this many.
Me too. I'm surprised that we've successfully recorded over 30 podcasts and posted them.
Have you seen anything good recently?
I watched a lot of short shows. So I watched that show Run with Domhnall Gleeson in it. I got into a Ricky Gervais thing, and I watched Extras, and I watched Derek, and then I rewatched a stand-up special. I watched Kong Skull Island, and against my better judgment, I watched Godzilla vs. Kong.
Oh, yeah?
It was actually pretty good for seeing two giant CGI creatures fight.
Really?
And then there's a third CGI creature they fight.
Oh, spoilers.
Spoiler, it's Mechagodzilla, if you didn't already know that.
Whoa!
And Kong kind of loses. Well, he loses at least once. I feel like he lost both times they fight, all the times they fight, until they team up, and then he gets to beat the schniz out of Mechagodzilla, but I still think Kong is better than Godzilla. Because I like monkeys.
Alright. So you're on the Kong side of things.
Listen, if I was going to place actual money on it, I'd go for Godzilla, but I'd secretly hope, go Kong. Go, little buddy. You can do it. He's only a lizard.
Okay, I found it. I was trying to find Run, but I found it.
Yes. I wish I remember her name, okay. But she played Elizabeth on...
Merritt Weaver.
New Girl. Yes, that's what I was going to say if I remembered her name.
I only know that because I have the IMDb open.
Well, yeah, not all of us can open IMDb, Kendall.
Unfortunately, I haven't really watched much recently because I've been running around like a chicken with its head cut off. But what else is new? But I do my regular, gotta keep up with the news, watch some Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, because why consume the news except in a fun, hilarious fashion, It helps.
Well, why wouldn't you just watch The Daily Show?
Because I like John Oliver.
Fair enough. What's wrong with Trevor Noah?
Nothing, but also John Oliver is on HBO, and I don't have a TV.
Ooh, someone's too fancy for Instagram. That's why I watch it.
Okay, whatever. But my schedule will hopefully be open up soon, and I will watch many of the things and catch up.
Many of the things.
Yeah, many of the some of the things. I did, however, rewatch a movie yesterday.
Kendall.
One of my favorite movies, called The Martian.
What?
What?
Never heard of it.
I know.
Is that what we're talking about today?
It's It's a movie about a guy who gets stuck on like Pluto and um, befriends Pluto the dog. He finds some space cheese. You know, he
Doesn't
goes to the
the one of
moon.
the Jupiter people come over there?
It's a whole thing, you know. It's kind of like a family reunion of interplanetary species, you know.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
um,
Doesn't it star that one guy from Good Will Hunting?
Matt
Robin
Smith.
Williams? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
No, I love The Martian. I probably, I mean, when, uh, no, I was ready. So I read the book, and when I say read the book, I listened to the book on tape. In my senior year of high school, um, I guess it was before the movie came out, and I think I was reading it because I wanted to read it before I watched the movie because I probably saw a trailer. But I just remember the book being so well done, so well written, and so
Wow, that came out in
interesting.
2015?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
But so then, yeah, I saw The Martian and the movie, and I love it still so much. It's so
It's a very good
beautiful.
film. It is very
It's
pretty.
like eye candy. It's beautiful colors, beautiful sound design, beautiful performances, beautiful people. Oh God, let's just talk about the people for a second.
There's so many people in this movie.
I know.
There's Benedict Wong, Kate Mara, Sebastian Stan,
Matt Damon,
I think he was James
Jessica
Bond or something.
Chastain, Kristen Wiig. I was watching
Michael
it.
Pena,
Chiwetel
Ejiofor.
I was watching
Chiwetel
it.
Ejiofor.
Donald Glover. Yeah, no, I was watching it, and I was just like, "Is this a
Mackenzie
Marvel
Davis.
film before they were all in Marvel?"
Mackenzie Davis.
Because it kind of felt like it, you know.
There's a guy who's on Sherlock. Jeff Daniels.
Oh, uh-huh.
Anderson from Sherlock. Yep. Anderson on Sherlock.
Yep.
That's what it was. I think that's the biggest names. I think that's all the folks.
It's pretty, and I mean, I forgot how many of those people were in this film, to be honest.
I remembered, obviously, Matt Damon, because
Matt Damon,
he's on the poster.
And Sebastian Stan and, like, Jessica Chastain.
I forgot all those people. I forgot Sebastian Stan. I forgot Kate Mara.
I forgot Donald Glover.
I vaguely remembered Michael Pena. I remember Donald Glover. Because I remember feeling like he was a bigger part of the marketing, and he shows up for, like, 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
All in all.
I will say, though, I mean, so usually, you know, I'm kind of like meh in terms of like stacked casts. I think when I first saw it, it was probably like meh. But like now when I watch it, it's just kind of nostalgic. And like I said, it's like a lot of these folks are also now in like Marvel things. And so it's like that's all they do. Almost.
There's only only two of them.
No,
Pena and Stan are the only ones still doing it. Oh, Kate Mara doesn't do it anymore. Actually, Jessica Chastain doesn't do it.
Chiwetel Ejiofor is gonna be in.
Oh yeah, I forgot. He's in. Chiwetel. He's still doing stuff.
If we continue with the Miles Morales thing, Donald Glover will still be in it.
Maybe. If he's not busy doing a million other things, because he's so busy and
you know that's
everyone's fine. Like, oh Donald, we want you to do this. Donald, we want you to do that, and he's like, nah. Don't want to. I'm just gonna keep making Atlanta.
I mean, Benedict Wong is coming back for Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah, Benedict Wong. I forgot.
So anyways. Yeah, no, it was great, and they all do so well, and I think it's also.
Matt Damon's coming back, I guess too. Okay. You know what? You don't always have to be right, Kendall. So just shut up. Shut your butt.
And then there's just Kristen Wiig, who's like, Marvel, what is that? It's all about DC.
DC? I mean, I get it, Kristen. I don't know if you noticed this, but when Donald is explaining his plan, Chiwetel boinks a pen on
Oh,
Kristen Wiig's head. I never noticed it before, but he
well,
clicks a pen on top of her head.
I just love that whole part when he's explaining his plan. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they just gave him a couple words and then told him just go in the room and do stuff because that whole moment
I'm
is
Teddy,
like,
director of NASA.
yeah.
Okay.
All his space noises.
I'm also not entirely convinced that like he wasn't actually asleep on set and they just woke his ass up.
I want more nerdy Donald Glover. You know, we haven't really seen it since Community, and I need more, but it's fine. Yeah, this is an interesting film and just story because it really takes that it's an isolated story with a single character, which you don't get many of. There's that one film. Is it also with Matt Damon? No, it's with the Buried or whatever.
With Ryan Reynolds?
With Ryan Reynolds, there we go. It was someone. You know, that's like another film with, you know, a single character, isolated character. Like, you don't get many stories like that, and it's hard to do.
That are good.
Yeah, that are good. Yeah, it's hard to do. So, yeah. And I think I'm probably wrong, but like this is the film that always immediately comes to mind when you think of like video blogs and like video blogging style of film. Like you get that in like television.
Oh, Castaway.
I guess Chronicle, kind of, not really, but you know, most of the story is him talking to the camera, fourth wall, more or less.
That one movie with John Chu in it.
Oh,
where he's like FaceTiming or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't remember what it's called.
But that was after this.
I'm not saying it was before this. I was just saying another movie that is like a blog-ish type movie.
But I think it really opens up that like a new style of filming and creativity because you have scenes where he's talking to the camera. You have your classic security footage scenes, and then him recording for science.
I'm gonna science the shit out of this.
Yeah, speaking of science, there's so much science in this film, but it's actually like understandable considering, you know, he's always explaining it because keeping records and stuff and kind of thinking it through on his own. So you at least understand, you know.
It's not just him doing stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is happening?
Yeah, you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. He's doing this.
Because this.
Yeah, I was trying to. So when the hab explodes, and his little potato farm dies, I think. Well, you know that his stuff is frostbitten, but then I mean, and I think I always just assumed this, but rewatching it, I was like, oh, duh, because that hab was full of oxygen.
And water.
That wasn't that Mars doesn't actually have, and so when it like exploded, it oxygenized. That's probably not the right term. I'm not a scientist.
No, I mean,
but Mark Watney is a scientist.
Oxidized?
Actually, he's a botanist. I don't know.
Luckily, I'm a botanist.
Yeah.
Also, I found some other one-person movies like Castaway and 127 Hours.
Okay, you know what?
Which are...
I love 127 Hours. That's one of my favorite films.
I'm not saying these are like... I wasn't saying it takes anything away from this. I'm just
unfortunately,
saying other
though,
good one-person movies.
Yeah, I mean, 127 Hours does have some video blog style, but most of it is not. Which it's amazing how much of this one is video blog, but you kind of don't think about it. You know, it's so naturally done, which is great.
It's more like Castaway.
Yeah. What Good Place episode did this remind you of? You were saying it.
Oh, I just watched it. It had it's called, I don't remember what it's called, but it's the one with Doug Forsett, and they go see Michael McKean in his cabin, and he's using his own waste as recycled water, and he's using his like pee to make water, his feces to make They grow radishes and lentils.
Oh my gosh.
That's what he survives on. And that's what it made me think of.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You would be correct in saying Matt Damon needs to think about the trips he takes before he takes them.
Especially space travel, because so far he's 2 for 2. He's not doing good.
Not doing so hot.
Well, I guess he's done some other space movies, but Interstellar and this one, he's not good.
It's funny that both he and Jessica Chastain are in this film because of Interstellar.
Oh yeah, she was in Interstellar too. Forgot about that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
I don't know if it's kind of funny, but it's amusing.
Well,
amusing.
Also considering Interstellar came out like the year before.
That too. I think it's funny that Sean Bean's the first one to know what Elrond is.
I love that. That whole moment where everyone understands what Elrond is except for Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig, that's right.
Yeah.
Jeff Daniels knows.
Yeah.
She's like, you guys
suck. I'm like, you work for NASA. Expect them all to be nerds.
Dorks.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is NASA.
Yeah. So many. The script is so well written. I think a lot of it. I haven't read the book in 5-6 years, but it does pretty well follow the book for an adaptation, even considering some of the dialogue too, which is great because there's some great it's dramatic and really intense and life-threatening, but there's so many like comedic moments where he's just like, fuck you, Mars, I
mean, I get it.
Yeah. Fuck
you, Mars.
I'm gonna do better than you,
Not gonna keep me down.
Yeah. Or just that one moment where he's saying what the fuck, but the audio is cut out and you still know exactly what he's saying and exactly what his reaction is. I think it's great.
But he didn't really say it, so it's okay.
So it's not an R-rated movie. No. But yeah, it moves along pretty well, it gets right to the point. Which is great.
One of the things I really liked about it.
Yeah. You don't need a ton of backstory because it just starts right away and you realize they're space travelers on Mars. Great.
I mean, it starts right where it needs to. You could have spent another 20 minutes trying to establish the pre-mission, them kind of dinking around on the ship beforehand, like, hey, we're all space pals. Doing our space thing.
Or the day before the incident, to kind of establish Mars life.
Well, yeah, I mean, they could have shortened, but they could have made a really long ass movie, or just used a bunch of time in the intro to meet everybody and hang out and go on the mission and show some time on Mars, and then he gets trapped and we spend
and they're like, oh no, we love him so much and now he's gonna die, But no, you really don't need that at all, and they don't,
because you still get it from the stuff that happens later.
Yeah, and you get to know the characters through the film too.
It's within the first 10 minutes is when everything starts, and I feel like you already know the characters relatively well in that time.
Yeah,
you don't really need anything extra initially.
Yeah,
you go to their crew on Mars, spend a little while, they're pals enough. And then, shit hits the fan and they leave their friend behind because he's dead. Mm-hmm. Or so they believe.
They thought. Yeah, and it gets right to the point. I love Mark Watney's kind of initiative. He just gets right to the point. He's like, I'm not going to die. And we got to start right now. Instead of kind of having a crisis of, oh shit, I'm not going to make it. He just gets right to it, which is great. Yeah, he starts right away, counting the food sources he has and all that.
I mean, it's like he says in the end when he's like, you either have to say, you're like, yep, I'm going to die. And you either have to accept that or get to work.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Because he knows
kind of like real life.
I love, other than it's just beautiful, the Mars, imagery and the golden hues and the orange and whatever. The spaceship design is so beautiful, and it has a lot of 2001 Space Odyssey, like reminiscent vibes, especially like the spinning rooms and stuff, which I think is really cool to kind of bring that back and kind of like legitimize the vision for 2001 A Space Odyssey, that like it's still
oh my gosh, I just realized, so that ship is called Hermes.
Uh-huh.
So they're the Ares missions, because Ares in Roman mythology is Mars, which I think a lot of people know, but it's called Hermes because Hermes is the messenger to the gods.
Yeah.
I just realized that.
Space jokes. It's like Elrond, you know?
It's like that. They do that with all their stuff.
Yeah, I think it's great. I would love to be someone that just gets to come up with the code names for things like that, you know? It'd be fun. So that's a little tidbit on Roman and Greek mythology.
You're welcome.
Another thing about this script is all the technical stuff, and just because they're scientists, they know all of this stuff, you know? So when he's like, I'm going to colonize Mars, it's I've officially done that. And Mark Watney, space pirate, you know, like he knows this. It's the fact that he's a scientist and studies all this stuff and knows that information so that he can just be like, yo, I just did this thing. Whereas like no one would regularly know that.
Mark Watney,
space pirate. I love it so much. And it's just, I mean, I'll just keep ranting about the script, I guess, but it's so...
It was written by Drew Goddard.
Good, great.
Who did Daredevil,
and,
for anybody who doesn't know.
Yeah, and then Andy Weir is the author who wrote the novel. It's just so well written and edited, like, assuming nothing goes wrong, and then the next scene is literally the hab exploding, and everything you could possibly imagine going wrong goes wrong.
Is that good writing, though, or is that just...
I would say it's good.
It's not that it's bad writing, but I feel like that's a lot of stereotypical. It's like, nothing could go wrong, or it can't get any worse, and then it immediately goes wrong or gets worse.
Fair, except they don't do it 50 million times.
That's true.
Because the moment...
They sort of set it up.
Because up until that point, everything is going pretty well. And then the moment he says, assuming nothing goes wrong, the film just goes downhill from there. So it's kind of like building up, immediately.
And I feel like they sort of set it up, if I'm remembering right. But, like, he mentions about not saying it out loud. Something going wrong. But then Jeff Daniels says it.
Yeah.
And that's when stuff goes wrong. So maybe that was... Ooh. Maybe it is good writing. I don't know.
But it's also
I'm just saying. I'm just talking about that specifically, not the whole script. Drew Goddard, if you ever want to hire me, I accept.
Oh my God. But preemptively. Also, like, after that point, literally things just keep going wrong. And you're like, oh, it can't get worse than this. Boom. Oh, it can't get worse than that. Boom. Oh, it can't get worse than that. Boom, boom, boom. And you're like, okay, you proved me wrong. It can get worse, you know.
Because they kind of start at the bottom, and then they sort of like uptick, more or less.
And then just snowball down.
And then it just sort of waves along. Because it seems like it's getting better, and then it's not.
Yeah, because it's like every time they find a solution, something else is wrong, you know. And then like, even when they're rescuing him, there's so many things that are going wrong, you know, in that final moment, so...
To be fair, he tried to be Iron Man.
Again, Marvel. Can we... No, just kidding.
Can we hire these guys? Not that you listen to us.
What are we hiring them for? To do our podcast?
I don't know. Yeah, sure. I'll message them. I'll see if they'll come on.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, Matt, you're free, right? Want to come on this podcast and talk about The Martian? No, I know you did it 6 years ago, but we're still going to chat about it.
Who are we? Oh, you don't know us. It's fine. Yeah.
Well, you don't know us, but...
You know.
It'll be cool.
Jeez.
No, you're not going to get paid. Stupid Matt Damon.
Oh my God.
Matt Damon, I don't think you're stupid. Please don't hurt me.
And then Gavin
I'm done.
disappeared because he got hurt. A hitman was sent to his apartment. So we have a
And this
lot of.
hasn't even gone up. That's how good Matt Damon
Oh
is.
my gosh. He's just watching, listening, always.
He might be.
So there's a lot of stuff we love about this film. And I would
There's a lot of
say,
stuff to love.
yeah, I would say it was hard, not hard, like not purposely fully trying to find bad things about films, but not everything is perfect. But I will say it was hard to kind of be like, what do I hate about this film, you know?
And I think hate doesn't always have to come from the
That's a
specific final
strong
product
word.
of the film. It's also a strong word. Dislike, didn't like, would have preferred, would be more accurate.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I guess. These are just our little nitpicks or criticisms. Not to say that it necessarily takes away from the movie.
Uh huh. Yeah. Did you? What did
You had a problem
you?
with the cliche space pop songs. What's wrong with you? Also,
No.
pop songs.
Okay. Rock
They
songs,
were
pop
old
songs.
songs.
Um.
They were disco
I
songs. One,
love.
they said they were disco songs.
Don't. Okay.
Two,
Okay.
they're
Okay.
not.
Okay.
Would you really consider them pop? They're more like
Don't get
classic.
me wrong. I love the songs that they use, but these songs are literally always used in like every space film,
Yes,
and that's where my problem
because
is.
of rights.
Fair, but that's where
And
my
they're
problem.
probably
That's where my problem
cheaper.
lies. Is that it's just like, okay, we've had this joke before of life on Mars playing in the background. You know, it's fun. I mean, it's fine. It's great, but it's like I love those songs. I love those artists. But again, yeah, it's just like cliche. We've heard this before in every other space movie.
My biggest complaint is not that I don't love Chiwetel Ejiofor, but he's not Indian,
Mm-hmm.
and the original character was in the book,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was reading up on it a little bit, and apparently they'd originally cast Irfan Khan. He's done some stuff, I can't think of it off the top of my head, who is actually Indian, but he had to drop out. I just don't see why they couldn't have found another
Yeah.
Indian person or Hindu person to take over the role, and having him with that kind of throwaway line being like, oh yeah, my dad was Hindu and my mom was a Baptist, so like, nah, that doesn't really count.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like being it or changing that line to match the to match Vincent
Or
Kapoor or
just
something.
even change his whole name.
That too.
Like,
Yeah.
either cast someone who's actually Indian or just change his whole name.
Yeah. And
It's,
unfortunately, it's stuff you see a lot in film. They are kind of getting better at it,
listen, things are getting better, but I still
but
feel
it's
like it's
still.
important to call out things that
Oh,
are
for sure.
wrong.
Yeah, no.
Especially since this was only 6 years ago.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think, yeah. But yeah, no. And especially when it comes to book adaptations and stuff like that, you know, really paying attention to those um, original like ethnicities and stuff, because it's important to have that representation, especially if you're using dialogue and stuff.
And I mean, like, if it's not specific, like, for when we do projects, like, we'll change, like, genders and stuff. But that's because, like, in our projects, they're not specified or it's not important that they are this or that. But, like, you cared enough in the book to make it an Indian character. You cared enough to initially cast somebody who is Indian, I believe. Or, sorry, before I keep. Yep, okay, he is actually Indian. I just wanted to make sure he was, before I kept going with this whole thing. You cared enough to cast somebody who's Indian, but then you have to cast someone who's African American, which is fine, but then you still try to keep the original name, at least in part.
Yeah.
Because in the book his name is Venkat Kapoor, not Vincent Kapoor. So you clearly cared enough to keep the last name, so it seems like you should have either completely changed the name or, what would have been more right, casting another Indian person to be that character.
And unfortunately, you know, like this happens all the time with like getting those top tier, top build names, you know. You're like, oh, we need to have this person because we'll get funding and we'll get viewing and audience building. But again, you know, when it comes to representation, like,
that matters.
It matters for sure, yeah.
And I feel like Irfan Khan, he is pretty popular, so he falls in that category. But if you look at the rest of your cast with just like Matt Damon, Jeff Daniels, saying you're going to have Don Glover in it, like that's a lot of star power right there.
Yeah.
Especially in 2015. So I feel like you don't really need to have everybody be a star, which is something we've kind of talked about before. But, you know, just because you cast somebody else of a different race, just because you have diversity, doesn't make it still right. It's kind of like, very loosely like, disclaimer. When they did the Ancient One in Doctor Strange, and they're like, yeah, it's not an Asian man, but it is a woman.
Yeah.
So, credit?
No.
And they're like, no, I don't think so.
That's not really...
I don't really feel like that counts.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, just because it's a woman doesn't make it any less whitewashing.
Yeah, unfortunately. And yeah, unfortunately, when you do look at the cast for this film, it is very white prevalent. You know, they do have diversity, but in not a lot of, well, I guess, yeah, I mean, you know, it's not, never mind, because I guess you see Vincent Kapoor and Brucing a lot. But I would also say it's like, you know, I don't know. They're kind of more
maybe not super ethnically diverse, but like gender diverse, I feel like it's, I mean, kind of, not really. It's mostly a lot of dudes standing around doing stuff.
That's true. But it is good to see, you know, female scientists, female astronauts and whatnot. So that was cool. Again, this was 2015, which unfortunately, like, you think we were pretty, you know, you think we were like doing pretty well, but we really weren't. You know,
listen, it's like a baby step. Like it's actually like okay-ish diversity-wise. It just means like my main point is it's just sort of erasure of an Indian character.
Yeah,
that was more the problem. Like if it was a character that didn't exist, or like his name was like Vincent Kramer, then yeah, Chiwetel Ejiofor was fine.
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
or like if it was instead of Matt Damon, it was like Denzel. Whatever. It doesn't matter because I don't feel like there's any reason that Mark Watney has to be a white guy.
Yeah.
But I already went over it. So. But you see the point.
Yeah. And I mean, fortunately, you and I are in a generation and in an age where we can take films like this where, you know, we were in high school and so we maybe weren't thinking about things as much and we can go back and reanalyze and be like, this is something we need to change, and this is something that we need to pay attention to in our current
going forward.
Yeah, in our current, you know, art works and stuff. So,
but it also does not take away from it being a good movie.
For sure.
In this case,
yeah.
Specifically,
it's just something that we can pay attention to.
You just have to be aware of it
and keep in mind going forward.
And if somebody were to say like, "Hey, man, this isn't cool," actually listen to it. I don't remember there being a lot of controversy around this. There probably was, and I just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
But, you know, when people are saying, hey, this isn't right, maybe you should do something about that. Like with Hellboy, Daniel Day Kim.
Oof. Uh-huh.
Because originally Ed Skrein was going to be Daniel Day Kim's character, but he didn't know that the character was part Asian in the comics. And then he found out and was like, okay, bye.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they cast Daniel Day Kim.
Yeah.
It was great.
So, yeah, it's also, you know, it's also a thing for, I mean, if you're an actor or performer, being aware of those moments when you get cast or when you're looking into a film. Luckily, nowadays, or if it, you know, you can pretty decent, I don't know, I guess it depends, but I think just on some casting calls and whatnot that I've seen, they're either unspecified, because it's up for interpretation. It could be any ethnicity, but if it is specific ethnicity, they usually ask that they're looking, or they usually specify they're looking for that specific performer, which is good. That's a step that can be taken, but it's also something that as casting directors and writers and stuff to pay attention to as well, to just make sure that you're getting that correct and accurate,
And thinking about that, I feel like that could also lead to other diversity issues. Like, it doesn't say, so
yeah,
white guy. Like, we didn't specify that it had to be, so it's not like we're not giving it to someone of this, like, not a white person.
Yeah.
It's just what happened.
Unfortunately. And then that's where you get into colorblind casting and blah, 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 and that's a whole other. Anyways, we're not a political podcast, but we do care. It's not
politics.
And we want
it's not politics.
Try to... No, but we don't want to, But...
That's not what this episode is about.
But yeah.
Final thought is just, it's important to notice these things, be aware of them, and just keep informed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So other than the space music, Kendall, what else did you hate about this movie?
I thought that was one thing that... It's really hard for me to watch films where an actor has to go through insane, intense physical transformations. Which, after I wrote this note, I realized that, well, okay, I'll keep going. But, films in, like, I think the ones that immediately come to mind for me are, like, The Machinist, with Christian Bale, and then Joker with Joaquin Phoenix.
But aren't they choosing to do that? I'm not saying they should.
So, yes, they are choosing to do that. I mean, like, for example, The Machinist, Christian Bale went further than they asked him to, by choice. But at the same time, just having that be part of the character or part of the story. It's just hard and intense. It's really not healthy. But, and it's just hard, for me to watch stuff like that. But I will say, though, after I wrote this note for this one, because Mark Watney goes through, he's malnourished and whatnot, and unkempt by the end of the film, just because that's not the resources he has. They did get actually a body double that they used twice, for the full body nudity kind of moment, just to show his degradation as a character. And then again when he's putting the spacesuit on at the end, because they show up close, because the rest of the time he's in his spacesuit, so he can get away with not actually having that physical appearance. But I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Damon went through some physical changes through the film. But I think maybe I appreciate that they got a stunt double, but then also at the same time to have stunt people going through that, as well, whether that's their natural
or is it
body mass or not. But,
I feel like they probably would have picked somebody closer to the actual... It actually looked like that if they're going to go with a body double.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they might as well just ask him to do it.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know. That's just... yeah. It's just a thing. Because it can be a lot, and it can be, not healthy. And I think, sure, we've gotten, again, better at it over the years. And, if an actor decides to do it because that's their method and their performance, fine, up to them. But, again, it's just like, acting is rough because you go through a lot mentally and physically, but it can be damaging, so.
Especially going back and forth like that.
Yeah. And yeah, that's just a thing to keep in mind as a director or producer or whoever, just like checking in on your performers, making sure that they're okay.
So y'all okay or what?
Yeah. On another note, I think, I really love the film and the way it looks and whatnot, but I think it kind of loses my interest and loses my appeal towards the end when they're rescuing Watney and they're in space for like maybe 30 minutes because like yeah, when they're on Mars there's some, you know, CGI and whatnot for horizons and distance and whatnot, but a lot of it is interior and is in studio, and so it looks really great. But then when they're in space, it's just like it's another one of those space films, Interstellar or Gravity, where you're like, this is just actors on harnesses behind or in front of a green screen, you know? So it's they do it well. It's fine. It looks fine. It's great. I think it just kind of loses my attention a little
Kendall's
bit.
just a complainer.
I know I am. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I have some complaints too. I feel like a lot of it's really convenient.
Uh-huh.
You know, like it's luckily he's a botanist. Luckily he got like impaled the right way. Luckily it didn't break off into a bunch of pieces. Luckily this, luckily that.
Uh-huh.
Even with all the other stuff that goes wrong, it all feels very lucky. I also was pondering, like, what if he was not a botanist? Like, what if it was like Sebastian Stan, or
if his character got that would be interesting.
Other German guy. Well, like if it was one of the other characters, just because, like, what if they don't really know what they're doing, so they have to use like what they already kind of know of science.
Yeah. Well, or at
maybe
what point
Mark Watney has left over.
You know, say it was Sebastian Stan's character that got stuck, you know, and so he's like, first steps, ration, count how much food you have, blah, blah, blah. But then maybe, you know, when they get in contact with the Hermes, it's like, or the Aries, it's like, you know, then Mark is like, oh, wait, we have potatoes. This is how you grow a farm. And so it's like, but then it's also kind of like, there are those points where because he's a botanist, he doesn't necessarily have to listen to what the scientists on Earth are telling him, which is kind of a funny moment because they're like, do this, but or no, he talks about them kind of trying to parent his farm. He's like, dude, I know what I'm doing. I'm a freaking botanist. Let me grow my farm, you know? But I agree it would be interesting, but also at the same time, how much of a story would it be? I don't know. It's, you know, that would be a question for Andy Weir, you know, like why? But then also I think it is interesting because you know, they make those jokes. I'm not
saying it's uninteresting.
But they make those jokes of, oh, botany isn't a real science, blah, 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 blah. And so it's also kind of like, you know, if someone were like, why do we need to take a botanist to Mars? Nothing grows there, blah, blah, blah. And so it's kind of like, bitch, this is why you got to take a botanist to Mars, you know?
Did you ever get stranded on Mars? I don't think so.
Which is also funny at the end when he's teaching that class and he's like, this might save your life. Saved mine. Blah, blah. It's like, yeah, you tell them, Mark Watney. You tell them.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, you tell them. I don't know.
Tell them, Mark.
It would certainly be an entirely different story in some parts. So, yeah. I do agree there are some lucky bits, blah, 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 but it's fiction.
It's science fiction.
Oh, so it's backed up by science and fact. No,
science fiction. Neil deGrasse Tyson said it was one of the most scientifically accurate movies he saw.
Great. Well, and I love that they can prove it scientifically accurate by having all these explanations, you know, because you have plenty of sci-fi films or science films where they're like, oh, this is just, if this is going to happen, this is how it is. And maybe they kind of explain it, but he goes so in depth into his explanations in this that it's like, you know, it's accurate.
Or you hope it's accurate.
I haven't done a ton of research on Andy Weir or, you know, what his background is in science or whatever, but, you know, how much.
He did a lot of research.
Yeah.
I was reading some trivia about it. So he did a lot of research to make sure it was accurate.
I love that. I want to know how many botanists and astronomers and stuff he talked to be like, what is the actual exact equation for blah, 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 you know? Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, okay. So we had a couple rants about this movie, but still it still doesn't turn me off from the film, you know?
Yes.
But it does give you an open mind.
I don't know if there's any movie that I have ever seen that I would be like, this is 100% perfect.
Yeah.
I would not change a single thing.
Especially book to film adaptations, you know. Although I will say this is one of the better book to film adaptations that I've seen. And it's a film that you don't have to have read the book, you know. I just read the book because I like doing that, you know, and I love the book, you know, but you don't have to have read the book or know anything about it to enjoy the film.
And this might be BS, but I feel like I've heard that the book and the movie are pretty similar anyway.
They are. Yeah. No, they are.
So
yeah. And
it's not like one of those like you're missing out on stuff by not reading it. Like with a lot of popular book franchise movies, Harry Potter.
Yeah, you do miss out on some pretty important things. I can't remember, and I might be wrong. I want to say the book has a little less interactions on Earth, or they certainly have less interactions with the Hermes astronauts.
I remember reading one of the differences is like Kate Mara and Sebastian Stan's interactions are a little more prominent. Like people kind of know about them being together instead of it.
They're kind of very subtle.
Kind of a secret. And also, I don't think Sebastian Stan really says anything in this whole movie.
He says like two things.
He has maybe a total of 10 lines.
Yeah.
In the whole thing.
Maybe. And then some great facial expressions, but that's it. You know? There's one point where he's like playing with a freaking spoon or something. I don't know. And I'm just like, they keep cutting to him. And I'm like, he's doing this. It's fine. We love it. That's fine. Keep cutting to Sebastian Stan. I won't complain. But, you know, he's over there.
He's just chilling, doing his thing.
Chilling. It's great.
He's like, hey, what's up?
But I would say,
I'm Sebastian Stan. I'm here.
And it's like kind of conflicting because it's like, you know, I love giving performers roles where like they are allowed a little more like kind of creative freedom, or moments where they can really use facial expressions and stuff to develop their character or whatever. But then at the same time, it's also like, is he just there because audience views and whatnot to get, you know,
it might be
advertisement, whatever. It's fine. I'm not complaining. Don't get me wrong. I am not complaining. That's actually okay. So I've been watching a lot of Falcon and Winter Soldier interviews because they're so freaking hilarious with Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie. Like I could watch this all day. Like who needs anything else in the world? But there was one where they were doing like a who knows who best sort of thing, and there was like what Oscar nominated films or whatever has the other person been in. And I think Anthony Mackie was like, I don't freaking know. And Sebastian Stan was like, there's that one. And then I guess The Martian counts. I mean, I'm not really, I'm just there. But it was nominated. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is...
Oh, Sebastian, you silly goose.
Yeah, it's great. Speaking of that, though, the Oscars and whatnot, The Martian was nominated for pretty much everything. I think this was also another year of big films. Let me look it up. I meant to look it up earlier, though. Let's see where
this was also the year that people were really upset because it won at Golden Globes for Best Comedy or Musical. And so I read they changed the rule. So because it's more of a drama with comedic overtones. So they changed it so that if it is a dramatic movie with comedic overtones, it has to be submitted as a drama and not a comedy or musical, just because it has like jokes in it.
Yeah. So we're looking at the 88th Oscars, which was 2016. But we had films like The Revenant and Bridge of Spies, The Big Short, Spotlight.
That was the Leo one.
Yeah. The Danish Girl. You know, so this was enough. A Room was in this. Yeah. So, and you know, this was a big year, another one of those big years. And so I'm not mad that The Martian didn't win anything because it was a competitive year. But it's good to see that it was nominated, but it was also, you know, I don't know. But, you know, it was nominated for Best Picture, Leading Actor, Adapted Screenplay, Sound, Visual Effects, Production Design. I also forgot when I was watching this, and it wasn't until the end that I realized or remember that Ridley Scott directed this film.
Yeah, me too. And I remember one of the reasons being the Golden Globes thing, to go back to that, that they didn't want to compete with some of the other movies, so that's why they submitted it. Like, Revenant, which won. Carol, Mad Max, Room, Spotlight.
Yeah, it was a big year. Which is like that's just stupid and cheap, skatey, but it's fine. Whatever, I get it.
And that's why they changed the rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Spotlight won that year at the Oscars.
It was a big year. Crazy year.
Whoa.
Yeah. I don't know. Anything else? It was great. It's a good film. I love it. Go watch it if you haven't watched it, just for fun. It's one of my favorite probably sci-fi films. There's a lot of sci-fi films. It's probably one of my favorite modern sci-fi films because I will always love classic 70s and 80s sci-fi. It's so beautiful. There's something about it. Those are like the OG kind of that in the 50s and 60s. Okay, you know what? Just whatever. But in terms of modern sci-fi films, there's very few that I actually enjoy enough or love enough to kind of go back and watch them multiple times, you know.
I really want to rewatch Arrival.
Ah, yes. I need to rewatch it. It's been a couple years, but I have seen it multiple times, and I will say I've not, I have enjoyed it every time I've seen it, but yeah.
There we go.
I'm not going to say some of the films I don't like because hot takes, but it's fine. Also, if you know you probably know which ones I don't like.
We'll talk about them off air.
Yeah.
And then we'll shame Kendall.
Wow. But I would say it's up there. It's up there.
Go watch it if you haven't.
Yeah. Yeah, go do it.
Please.
Go do it.
We don't get any money for it, but you should do it anyway.
Wouldn't that be great? Who do we talk to about that?
I would love that.
Maybe one day we'll have people lining up at our doorstep to get us to review their films.
Yeah. Probably not.
It's not happening.
We can hope.
Yeah. Well.
Shall we move on to...
Yeah, should we do some random topics?
I think we shall.
Alrighty. Let's get this thing going. Do you believe in reincarnation?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I can see why you would. And I feel like it's a nice thought, but then I also don't think it's a real thing. So.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not opposed, I'm open to whatever folks want to believe and with whatever basis and whatever. It's very interesting of a concept to kind of like look into if you look into the history and religion and belief behind it. I would say I don't believe I'm going to be reincarnated into something, but who knows? Can we really know? I don't know.
We can't really know. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's interesting for kind of just like a thought experiment, and some of the religious stuff surrounding it is interesting, and those sorts of things. I just don't personally really believe in it.
Yeah, which is fair. You believe in you. We'll believe in me.
I don't believe in myself either, Kendall.
That's fine. Okay, you know what, Gavin?
Gross.
How about
do a blue one?
Oh.
It's too late. You've already pulled one.
Sorry, this one's yellow.
You should be sorry.
If you had to replace your hands with anything except for claws,
damn it,
what would you put at the end of your arms?
I was going to say lobster claws.
I think, well, yeah, okay. I was going to say.
Now it can't be claws. Can it be bare hands? Can I do like bare hands?
Bare hands have claws, though.
That's different, though. It's not like I'm just having lobster claws. I want like bare hands. And they're more like nails. Just like, I did it with my bare hands.
Oh, that would be kind of funny just for the pun.
Bare
this
hands.
Is going to be stereotypical of me as a handyman and carpenter person, but I think I would have Swiss Army knives at the end of my arms. Because you could just have multiple uses,
Go gadget hands.
Ooh, yeah.
Gadget hands. Or like in Quest for Camelot, they do this thing where they the main bad guy combines his minions with weapons, and they have different things on the end of their hands. There's like one with swords, but there's this guy who can like shoot arrows out of his hand.
Ooh.
There's a guy with an axe for a hand. Where's his head? I don't know.
But
or I'd be one of those guys.
How low would you have to go? You know, what would be the breaking point for you to put thumbs at the end of your arms?
So I could be like the thumbs?
Yeah. Exactly.
What would be the breaking point? What do you mean?
Because that doesn't seem very appealing to have thumbs. They're kind of, you know, what can you do with it?
You might as well just have stumps.
Yeah.
And you go, bah, bah,
so,
bah, bah,
you know,
bah.
would you have to be kidnapped by Floop to put thumbs on the end of your arms? Or, you know, would you do it for $500 million? You know, it's...
Well, yeah, I'd do it for $500 million because then I can get prosthetics with that money.
Oh my gosh.
Are you insane? Yes. 100%.
You put hooks on the end of your thumbs?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Hooks on the thumbs that used to be my hands.
Right. All right. So if anyone has $500 million, they're just willing to
or
spend...
tentacles. I'd have tentacles instead of hands.
Would you have a single tentacle, or would you have like multiple tentacles on your arm, on each arm?
I'd want one that's one and one that's multiple.
Oh my god. This is the wildest.
Plus, imagine if you ever mad at somebody and wanted to smack them.
Just smack them with
nothing worse than a tentacle in the face.
Especially if they like suction cup and then peel off or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Just imagine how much easier it would be to suffocate someone.
My gosh. Okay, on that note, I think it's time to log off.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
If I get tentacle hands, watch out.
Oh my gosh. If you got $500 million to spend, you know, shoot it our way. Maybe we'll change our arms
get
into
thumbs for hands. No, we're definitely not going to do that.
Be sure to subscribe so you can get updated every week when we post on Fridays, and follow us on social media. It's Bane and Mickey _podcast, where we will update you on all the things. And
Bane and
rate us, comment, let us know.
5 stars for Beezus.
And we'll see you next week. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.